The U.S. women's national team absolutely were on fire tonight against Paraguay. Let's get into it. We're going to be talking about our initial reactions, talk about the starting 11, talk about who really stood out to us, and looking ahead to the U.S. women's national team playing Chile on Tuesday night. And whether you're listening here on YouTube, jump in the comments, let us know what you think. We appreciate it. Or you're with us on Golazzo or listening as a pod. Thank you for joining us. All right. Initial thoughts jumping into this match. Let's first take a look at the starting 11 for the U.S. women's national team. This was an incredibly young squad. All right, first up, we have Mandy McGlynn starting in goal. We have Trinity Rodman up top with Kennedy Wesley. Tara Rudd, formerly Tara Mickione. I also got confused by that. Had to remind myself. Ally Sentnor, Lola Bonta, Olivia Moultrie, Izzy Rodriguez, Claire Hutton, Giselle Thompson, and Reilyn Turner going back home and getting her first cap with the U.S. women's national team. Okay, ladies, when we first looked at this lineup, Lori, what were your first thoughts? It's very young.
Yeah. I mean, that is actually knowing that Trin was the captain, and shout out to her and the week that she's had with contract, the largest contract in the world for a women's footballer. So huge congrats to Trin, but also being the captain and just at 23, basically the veteran of this squad. So that alone tells you how young this team is. But also I think we see so many familiar faces, and that's credit to Emma Hayes and her staff, because one of the big talking points last season was how many players had gotten a first cap underneath Emma Hayes. And I think that showed tonight. I mean, even though it's a young squad, these players we're so accustomed to seeing now. And listen, overall, like, I was excited about this lineup. I was excited about how they were going to use Rodriguez, very much like Kansas City uses her. We saw that throughout this match. So Claire Hutton has been excellent. Ally Sentnor in the 10. We've seen her play, and we also saw her play as a 9 tonight as well. But we've seen her shift around. So I liked this group. And, you know, outside the first 45, which I'm sure we'll talk about, but felt like a very January first 45 minutes, which is the team's back together. They've had some time off. You're, shaking out the rust. And I thought overall the second half showed what this team can do, and obviously knew that first half wasn't up to really the standard that they want, despite them being young. And I think credit for them to come out and immediately get a goal and then 4 more after the second one.
Yeah, all gas.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said, Lori. I think the biggest thing that stood out for me was this roster, the starting 11 average 9.6 caps between these players. Like, that's huge. I think that's the youngest starting 11 in like 25 years, if I'm not wrong. And it showed in the first half. I think in the first half, we saw like a very immature US side, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think when we think immature, sometimes we think, oh, like that's a bad thing. Not really. It's an opportunity for these players to showcase themselves, especially against a team like Paraguay, they don't really generate anything going forward. We have to be really, really honest, as hard as it is for Paraguay. They weren't a threat, and it poses certain challenges for a team like the US, because the US is used to always dominating, always having the ball, but always having the ball doesn't necessarily mean that you're being dangerous. And it showed in that first half. It took them some time to break down Paraguay, but once they were able to do it, it was just, we saw them coming. 1 goal, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Yeah, when I initially saw the starting lineup, my biggest question, well, one, I'm hyped. I love Emma Hayes. We never know what to expect. She's like, we're doing a young camp. We're going to give more caps. You get a cap, you get a cap, you get a cap. I want a cap. And my biggest question is when we see this mix up, and you two having full team experience, I want to ask you about this, but that chemistry and also that pressure with a lot of these young players and trying to build off of that. I mean, the most glaring one to me was watching Giselle Thompson, who's been in camp for a few times now. Trinity Rodman's back with the captain's armband, but watching the chemistry try to build between players when you're in a pressure cooker. A lot of them are at home. They're Cali kids, like our Janelli over here, who know you have family, friends, fans watching you, cheering you on. It's a lot. And I feel like the first 45 minutes, to be exact, of this first half, we saw those nerves coming. But In the first 45, did you guys see any kind of trends that the US were trying to do that maybe it just wasn't clicking? Or what was the issue, Janelle, that you saw that was kind of rusty as they were coming out?
Well, they were moving the ball side to side because Paraguay they were pretty much sitting in a 5-3-2. They were congesting the middle of the field, that space in front of their three center backs, which allowed the US to play on the wings to move the ball through their center backs, through Claire Hutton in the midfield. It allowed Olivia Moultrie to connect on the left side. Trinity Rodman had a lot of space to play on that right flank. But in the first 45, it just seemed like there wasn't much clarity in the final third. Once they got in and around the 18-yard box, they were kind of like, oh, what do I do? And that's where that immaturity comes in, that immaturity that I was talking about. And it was also like you said, that nerves, that pressure, that's really hard to manage when you are new to a team, when you are new to the best of your country. It is really hard to manage. And it's even harder when you don't have much experience on the field. And I do want to give a shout out to Trinity Rodman for captaining the team in this first half. I was a bit of unsure of how she was going to handle it, but there was a point in the first half where they go over to huddle to Emma Hayes, and camera goes to the group of players, and Trinity Rodman is speaking, and they're all looking at her like she's talking, and they're just all like this, nodding their heads, and that's huge. That's huge. Trinity, I think, today was her 48th cap. So she was the most experienced player on the field today for the US, and it showed. So I want to give her credit. It's not an easy role to step into, considering all of the trajectory of the US women's national team. So props to her.
Yeah, I like the word clarity that you used, because I do think, and it's not necessarily that hasn't been instructed from the coaching staff or they have an idea. It's just, okay, things aren't coming off as cleanly as they would want. And that's kind of going back to the point that we were making. Okay, it does feel like a January camp. It's the first time you're back together after a little bit more of an extended period off. But I also think there was one thing that it was either Melissa Ortiz said or even Julie Faddy, but I think it was Melissa Ortiz, because she had spoken to Emma Hayes at halftime, and it was specifically about Olivia Moultrie. But I think that you could put that to everybody. It's just about simplifying her play, because if if you feel like you're rushing at the wrong times, or it's too slow at other times, then it's just like connect your passes in those certain situations, especially if you're kind of unclear what Paraguay was giving you, because at times they would high press. And I think that caught the U.S. off guard a few different times on whether or not I could turn or I could play forward. But then also when there wasn't pressure, they were also playing a high line. So it was like, okay, where's the space? We're not able to totally read the cues. And I think that's where some of the disjointedness came for the U.S. So just simplifying, I feel like, was a good message. And then once we saw that, obviously the goals started to come. But the one thing that I would say that I think Reilyn Turner, shout out to her for getting her first cap and first goal. And even though I think there's like such another level, and I feel like this when I watch her play with the Thorns too, is another level for her in terms of like just she has the speed, she has all those instincts, but get out the desire to get there first, right? But I still felt like a lot of her movement opened up space for Ally Sentnor and allowed her to be able to play underneath or make those runs in behind. And then also same when Croy Bethune came on, the connection between Ally Sentnor when she moved to the center forward position. I thought Croy was able to create a ton of space for herself, play off of Ally. So that in general, and listen, without belaboring this point and continue on and on, but Trin was very disciplined in that first half to stay wide, because that was the case. So that opened up the central area as well. And I think give credit to the US, because even if things didn't come off, positionally, you could see what they were trying to do. So the next step is just going to be about refining those moments in terms of connection.
Yeah, 100%. When I'm reflecting on the first 45 minutes of this game, and I'm thinking it was very obvious the U.S. wanted to go down the right side. They wanted to turn Paraguay around. They wanted to use Trinity's speed. But I want to touch on what it means for her to wear the captain's armband. She just signed the most lucrative contract for a player ever. She's a business woman. She goes into camp. She gets the captain's armband. That's a whole different level of pressure, and I think growth that we've been really excited to see from her, even with her club team and now with the national team. The most cap player on the pitch in camp for this side and then stepping into a game, and especially in kind of a more isolated position as a winger, saying to lead this team. So from both of you, both have experience as captaining teams and leading. How big of a nod is that from Emma Hayes to wear the captain's armband for this game?
Laura, you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. I'll just say it's huge. I think, she has experience, but this is a player that's still young, and there is so many eyeballs, rightfully so, because one, how brilliant she is off the field and on the field. But she's grown up in the spotlight, especially with coming into the NWSL at such a young age and expecting to perform. And she's showed up and done all of those things. But I think what the nod from Emma Hayes really does is just show, I believe in you. You're an important voice. You are such an important figure within this locker room. I mean, because that could have been given to Lola Bonta. We talk about the importance of her being in there. Olivia Moultrie's continuing to showcase her ability, and she's not afraid to speak up and talk amongst the team. I mean, you could look at a number of those players, right? But to give it to Tren and say, I believe in you, this is important, especially off of the record week that she had, I think is huge. And I would imagine that is massive for Tren as well, to say, yep, I can take this responsibility. I take it so seriously. And I feel like that's going to show us even another level for Tren, because it just, all of those things add to maturity, responsibility on what it means. And we've already seen her take that with so much joy, but this is another level to captain the U.S. Women's National Team. So massive credit and well-deserved.
Just one thing you said there at the end, Lori, responsibility. I think that's the biggest thing that stands out for me. It's just that, how does she take that responsibility moving forward?
First start, first goal from the local kid, UCLA baby, go Bruins, Reilyn Turner. I mean, to me, this is you couldn't start off better with your first cap with the U.S. Women's National Team. I know there's a lot to grow there. She's still a younger player. Those nerves were probably very present. She had a couple opportunities where she could have had goals. But to me, this was a fairy tale start to hopefully a long tenure with the U.S. Women's National Team. What's Reilyn Turner's ceiling? And Lori, I kind of want to ask you this because you've been covering her for so long. You've seen her growth throughout her time with Portland and Louisville back in the day when she first joined the league. But what's next for her to make her a staple in these camps?
Yeah, I think at the U.S. Women's National Team level, it is about, one, finding the back of the net. I mean, if you're playing as a center forward, that is your job. That's what you are asked to do. Whether it's against, a team that's not as challenging versus number one team in the world, that's us. So against the number two team in the world, you are asked to find the back of the net and do it consistently, right? Because you're asked to be relied upon in that way. But you're also asked to, I think, create space for others, because one thing with the U.S. Women's National Team is, or create space for yourself too, quite frankly, because we do see a lot of teams that will sit back, condense space, not create a ton for the U.S. Now, that was at times we saw that today, as Janelle has said, they were in a 5-3-2 a lot of the time, but also they had a high back line, so there was space. Personally, for Reilyn Turner, I think her ceiling's huge, but she is going to have to continue to find the back of the net, do that with the Portland Thorns consistently, and just continuously be a threat. And I do like what she offered in that first half, even if there was a chance that she missed early on. Okay, shook it off, continued, made some really good runs. I felt like stretched the field, opened up space for Ally Sentnor, but also really kind of understood the runs that Ally Sentnor wanted to make as well. So at times when Reilyn would check back, that allowed for Ally Sentnor to get in behind. But again, I think it's just that sharpness to say, hey, listen, I might only get one or two chances. I've got to put them away. Biggest thing I liked is there was a few chances that she missed, but it didn't matter. At the end of the first half, put the one away that she got. And I think that's huge credit to her just to continue to go. And it was a really important goal for the U.S. So huge ceiling, I think, for Reilyn. Just has to continue to push and be that much more. I'm lacking the word, we're in January camp too, it feels like, because we haven't.
No, we're still getting warmed up, literally and figuratively.
Just the commitment to be you see it a lot with Sentnor, right? Her desire. She's I want to score I want to score 8 goals a game. And I feel like for Reilyn, that will be the step, right? It's like, don't hold back. You have all the tools.
Yeah, it's almost as if, when you're a young player on a team and you almost pull back to just build off of other players and what
Yeah.
they're going to bring, as opposed to being like, yo, this is what I bring.
Conviction.
Conviction. There we go,
Yes.
Lori.
There
we go. We just had to
Thank
warm up a
you.
little bit.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. But
It is.
instead of kind of respecting you can also respect what other people are doing and the talents people have, and you watch them, it's how they're defined and how they play. Maybe they've been in more camps, but it's almost like, oh, Reilyn, we know what you can do.
Yeah, and she
Bring
has
it.
It's a very similar conversation that we've heard them talk on the broadcast about the goalkeeping situation. And that has been a reoccurring theme for Emma Hayes' staff with the goalkeepers, given how young that group is. And it's like, okay, who's going to step up and actually take this position? That has been the word, even just talking to the staff at different periods myself. I'm saying it's right now sometimes less about what they're actually doing. We just want somebody to be there and be the presence that's like, hey, I'm going to take this position.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's what you have to do as a center forward as well.
Yeah, 100%. Because you look at the players that are potentially coming back and maybe the next window, you've got a Sophia Wilson, you've got a Mal Swanson, a Trinity Rodman back, and Ally Sentnor can play everywhere. When you get those minutes, you have to take them. And I'm so happy she got that goal. And I hope in this camp we get to see more of her and see her with a threat that anytime she's around the box or gets on the ball, she maybe is going to score a goal. And we need to see her have that. But shout out to my fellow Bruin. I love it. Sometimes we love Trinity Rodman. We can't say her name enough. She's getting her back. She's doing well. She's captaining the team. But that first half was difficult for the U.S. to find any rhythm. And as her being the leader, I think, Janelle, you talked about how she was the one everyone was looking at to find answers from. What did you make of her game / the goal that she finally gets in the end? This is from Tara Rudd, not Rudd.
Yeah, when I saw that on the starting lineup, I was like, Rudd, who is that? Gotta keep up with these name changes. No, but to answer your question about Rodman, Lori said it earlier. She was very disciplined. Now, I feel like it might have been a frustrating first half for her because the U.S. they weren't having much clarity or clear options in the final third. But Rodman seemed composed. She didn't seem panicked. She was just stayed disciplined, stayed wide, made the runs when she needed to. She's significantly quicker than most players. And she was really smart and always staying on sides, timing her run and knowing when to drive in behind the defenders. That was huge. That alone created, I think, 4 or 5 clear opportunities for the US. And she didn't lose her patience. She remained calm, composed, and the time came for her. She had a clear opportunity, left-footed strike right outside the 6-yard box, and she made it count. I think it's a dream game for her. Captain band, goal in California. I mean, it couldn't have gone better for her today. We saw her dancing, all the smiles, her teammates just looking at her, nodding their heads when she's smiling. That's huge for her, huge for the US women's national team. But I think it's going to be even bigger, I hope, for Washington Spirit. How can she translate the responsibility she has now on the US national team to the responsibility she's going to have with the Washington Spirit? That's going to be huge going forward, because I think that's something that's lacking in the Spirit side. They're lacking that leadership, somebody to step up with the voice, with actions on the field, off the field. Can she do it? I don't know. We'll see.
Well, I like that because someone else on Spirit came in the game and I thought she made the world of a difference. Corey Bethune. I am such
My
a
girl,
Bethune,
I love her.
such a Bethune stan. Janelle, I want to let you cook on Bethune because you're close with the Spirit. They're in your backyard. You watch them closely. And to me, Bethune, for her to not get a start, I was like, criminal. This is a camp when we should see her get 80 plus minutes. And maybe in the next game, we'll get to see more of her. My opinion, I think she proved that she deserves more time because I think her unselfish runs, her touches, you could see the ideas that she was trying to do. But, it's the January camp, as it's rusty, didn't always come together. But to me, she's lights out.
When Croy Bethune came on, the game totally changed. The U.S. created, I think, and I'm not exaggerating either, maybe like 5 clear opportunities within 6 or 7 minutes. That was huge in the beginning of the second half. She totally changed the tempo and the rhythm and just the conviction that the US was playing with. She's a player that she's so creative, so good on the ball. And I love the connection she had with Ally Sentnor when she came on. Ally was pushed up to target 9. Croy had more of like the freedom to play in that 10 role, but they were interchanging positions. And on that third goal, it was an own goal for Paraguay, but it was all the credit to Croy Bethune. She's the one that initiates the play. She continues her run, and she kind of almost forces the defender to make a mistake with her pressure. I'm really, really excited to see her, I think, get more minutes on Tuesday. And I think she's definitely going to be a key player in this next World Cup for the US.
Oh,
Putting it out there now.
Yeah, I like that prediction.
I love that.
I think the biggest thing about Croy is, and we heard again on the broadcast, one of the things that Beattie was saying was, at times it was just too slow. But I also think at times it was just too fast, right? Instead of like a little bit of a rhythm of like, okay, when are we going to like try to bait Paraguay? Some quick touches in short amount of space, and then like switch to point of play and find Trinity or something so she could go 1v1 or more balls in behind in that first half. But I say that because I feel like that's what Croy does. The spirit, the national team. Yeah. She has an instinctual understanding of rhythm, when to slow things down, when to create space. I mean, even her first touch, and no one's probably going to remember this, but it's a touch that goes away from the goal. And then she just turns herself, gets herself faced up, and then she can look. It's something so simple, but it's smart because she's able to get some clean touches to settle herself into the game and then start to create and play off of players. So I completely agree. One player that I was really enjoyed in this game was Izzy Rodriguez. And I think it played right into her hands the way
unsung hero.
Yeah.
Always.
And we saw this throughout the season with Kansas City, is she was a fourth attacker for them because they would just push her on all the time on that left-hand side. So this game I felt like was just made for her because it was carbon copy of that from the season, to be able to push higher, to be able to help create in the attack. And, essentially they played with 3 in the back because there wasn't much with Paraguay in the way of an attack. But I do like what she offered. I think she allows, and when the U.S. plays that way, obviously with Olivia Moultrie playing as like essentially the left winger, then she can cut inside, and then you can see the diamond in the midfield and all that jazz, like whatever you're looking for, but in wherever you're trying to create the overloads. But I do like what Izzy Rodriguez offers, and I also love true left-footed player because you saw some of those balls that she played in behind, just seamless, right? She doesn't have to cut back, more preferred right foot. She's just laying balls in behind. I think one Trent tried to take first time, which I was like, yeah, why not take it?
Oh, the hero volley.
Yeah. I was like, go on. But that all started because, you're just playing that left-footed ball clipped in. So from Izzy Rodriguez. But listen, for the most part, great reaction, I think, coming out of halftime, much smoother for the U.S. And I agree completely. I hope Reilyn Turner starts. I hope Croy Bethune gets more minutes because I want to see some of these players that maybe we haven't seen as much recently, what they can do from the start.
Do you think at half, one of the big things that Emma Hayes told the squad is get the ball to Izzy? Like, Izzy, get involved in the second half? Because to me in the first half, everything went right. Yeah. Everything was going up to Trinity Rodman, and it, like Trinity's epic hero volley that she attempted, which it sat sweet. I get it. It seemed like everybody below the front line as well were trying to play that hero ball. Yeah. And it wasn't working, whether the pace, the texture, the setup of Paraguay, just the run not matching the pass, or the pass initiating the run when it should be the opposite. But in the second half, I think it came together. But do you think that was something Emma Hayes brought up at halftime to get Izzy more involved?
I think so for sure, because in the first 30 minutes, both outside backs, both Izzy, Rodriguez, and Thompson, they were kind of just sitting back when they didn't have to, because Paraguay wasn't being dangerous at all, so they didn't have to defend. And like you guys said, Izzy eventually turned into another attacker. And the second she did that, the game changed for them. I know we talked a lot about how good Rodman was and how disciplined she was on the right side. Izzy Rodriguez was so dangerous in connecting with Olivia Moultrie, with Ally Sentnor, with Croy Bethune when she came down into those pockets of space. So I think it was definitely part of the conversation. And I think another thing that might have been a factor is uh, they came out with like a different type of confidence in themselves in the second half. It's almost like they actually believed they were good enough to be there, and they kind of like threw that immaturity, that inexperience out the window, and they're like, all right, we're the U.S. women's national team, we can do this, and we're gonna score a lot of goals, and they did that.
Yeah, I mean, 6 goals in total. Reilyn Turner, Ally Sentnor had 2, which we haven't talked about that. Croy Bethune forced an own goal from Martinez on Paraguay. Trinity Rodman gets one, and then Emma Sears comes in, and of course she scores. She puts so much pace behind the ball as well, you guys. It's crazy. Ally Sentnor to me is also one of those players that I think that's the future of one of the attackers of the US. Like, she's going to push the
100%.
envelope of a starter in camps, in major tournaments, whether she's in the 10, whether she's up top. I think her versatility is a massive asset for her game. But I mean, Lori, what do you rate her performance in this game? I think it took her a little bit to finally find her groove and get that confidence, but you touched on earlier that she's one of those players where she has the conviction to get forward. You know she's going to score. It's imminent.
Yeah. I felt like, in terms of even just like watching the game, she was where I was drawn to the most. She looks in form. She looks smooth.
Yes.
And she looks, always when she's on the field, you can tell the pressure she's putting on herself to score goals. That is what I feel like she's like, okay, I'm either going to make this goal happen by playing a final pass, or I'm going to do whatever I can to get on the end of runs. And if she's like, if I have to bypass players to like get there first and cut off angles, yeah, I'm going to do it. I thought overall, from the first to second, and her 2 goals, probably the best player on the field consistently throughout this game, in terms of just the desire and switching positions, right? And playing off of whether it was Reilyn Turner in the first half or Croy in the second. So, yeah, I mean, versatility is going to be key on this team with the amount of attacking threats. And you even mentioned Sophia coming back, Mal Swanson, hopefully all be back, right? Trin consistently getting minutes again, just adding in everybody. I mean, it's such a deep front line, but I think Sentnor absolutely right there and shows it, and has so many different tools, right? Speed to get it behind, tight spaces, has so much versatility.
There's a moment right before her first goal where she scans like 3 times within the span of like 2 seconds.
Yeah.
And there are very few players that have that capacity at the highest level. Very few players. And the fact that she has that, she's so aware of the ball, of the opponents, of where her teammates are, of where the open spaces are, of where she needs to make her run, of where she's going to receive the ball. That's massive. And that sets her apart. She understands football at a very different level. So I completely agree with you. She was the best player on the field today. And I think she's fighting for a starting position, whether it be in that 10 role or that 9 role.
Yeah, I completely agree. I would argue one of the best players on the pitch, though. They didn't get goals, so they're not going to get player of the match. But Claire Hutton.
Same, yeah, she's up there.
Just chef's kiss. Any time she's on the ball, she has this like powerful elegance. I use Sam Ewis as the reference, but she's kind of made this into her own role in that way. But that you're like, the physical prowess she has, and then the technicality is so few. It reminds me of like a Lauren Holiday as well. Like so few players have that. And to me, she is just lights out.
And speaking about scanning, Claire's always doing that. Always checking her shoulder, knowing exactly where the pressure is, playing off. I think, I stand by what I said about Sentnor, but Claire now, just with the consistent experience that she's getting all the time now with the U.S. Women's National Team, I feel like she's always in that conversation. I mean, she is making the team tick. She's collecting balls in positions to disrupt defensively, being like the first line or first player in terms of an outlet once we do regain possession, and then the range and her ability to open up games. And I mean, listen, Lauren and Sam are great comparisons because both of those players, either foot, pinging balls left and right, switch and play, understanding rhythm. I mean, it's everything that you're asking for, and it just allows all those players in front of her to do what they do. And it's also one of the reasons why we heard them say too about Emma at halftime saying, "Low, you don't need to be so deep.
Yes.
Go forward. They don't have a ton of players up top, so we don't need so many players back. Claire can take care of that, and let's get more numbers forward to push them
Claire's
back."
got it.
Yeah.
Claire can handle it all by herself.
Yeah, give Claire the captain's armband. She just turned 20. Now she can handle it. Guys, crazy. I'm such a fangirl of Claire Hutton. I love watching her play. Before we talk about Paraguay, how do we feel about Hal Hirschfeld at center back with the U.S. Women's National Team? Is this where we could see her feature more consistently? Like, does she have it in her to do that when there's a healthy roster, let's say?
Lori, I'll let you take this one. I think you have more experience with her.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen her play. We were talking about this before we even started the show, and I can't remember if it was with the national team or at one point in time. It's not an extensive amount, because even when the amount of games I covered with her at Clemson, she wasn't playing there. She was always the deep lying midfielder. But she has that ability, the range to be able to play. And I also think it's an interesting idea, because in this game we pushed Izzy Rodriguez high, right? But
Very
you
high,
can
yeah.
also play where you could push Hal into the midfield, even if she's playing as a center back, and you still have, depending on who you're playing, right, the opposition and also who the other defenders are, but you could push her in as another midfielder in possession, or even out of possession to step in earlier to win a ball from that center back position. So yes, I mean, I think when you look at the depth in the midfield, we've already talked about the depth up top. I think this could be an interesting position for Hal Hirschfeld. I mean, I think she can absolutely. I mean, this is about Emma Hayes saying, listen, everything is up for grabs, but we got to start like getting ourselves in the best position possible for qualifiers. And I think when you look at Hal has been outside more than she has been inside with the U.S. Women's National Team as of late this past year, then maybe that is a really great position for her to be going after, because she can defend, has the range, and she can also step in and have some fluidity in the midfield too.
Yeah, this team loves depth, as does Emma Hayes. Well, let's talk about Paraguay really quick, because, it was tough. I think they had two different minds of what they were trying to do, the high line, but not pressing at all. They were very compact, but didn't cut off those midfield pockets, and it fed into the U.S. having so many chances. But we did get to see coming to the NWSL, Claudia Martinez, number 11 with Paraguay, get some touches on the ball. And Janelle, I want to ask you about her, because I think we saw a little bit of flavor from her. We saw her driving, saw some physicality. She's very technical. But what do you make of her, and kind of what do you think we can expect with her now coming to the Washington Spirit in a couple weeks?
Well, there's a lot of hype about Claudia Martinez right now with was it 950,000 transfer fee from Club Olimpia in Paraguay to the Washington Spirit. So I think that alone could be a reflection of how good she is, or how good she can be. Interesting fact about her that not many people know: she's just been playing professional football for 3 years, only 3 years. She used to play handball and futsal before this. So this is like massive for her. She talked about this in an interview recently. So I think that's huge. But she has 21 goals in 21 games across all levels for the Paraguay national team. She was nominated for the Copa Trophy last year alongside Linda Caicedo and Captain. She was leading goal scorer in Copa America last year, player of the year in Paraguay in 2025. So she has a lot of good things behind her, but I think today was somewhat of a reflection of what she will be up against in her first season in the NWSL now that she joined the Spirit. Today she was, you could say, non-existent. It was tough for her, but at Spirit, she's going to have a lot of things in her favor. She's going to be surrounded by players of the highest caliber. She's going to be in one of the best environments in the world, great training facilities, awesome direction of the club. So I think she's in good hands to hopefully stand out.
Yeah, I hope. This is all per reports. Club hasn't announced it yet, but I don't know.
But yeah,
I feel like we're gonna see her. Yeah, I feel like we're gonna see her, and I can't wait. We saw some touches, some techers from her tonight, and hopefully we get to see it in our backyards very soon. TBD.